Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to our attendees from Singapore and good morning to those connecting from the UAE. My name is Adriana Tan and I'm from Enterprise Singapore. On behalf of the organizers, the UAE Embassy in Singapore and the UAE Singapore Business Council, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the UAE Singapore Workshop on Investment. Before we begin, please allow me to acknowledge the VIPs in attendance today. Your Excellency Jamal Abdullah Al Suwaidi, UAE Ambassador to Singapore and Patron of the UAE Singapore Business Council. Your Excellency Kamal Vaswani, Singapore Ambassador to the UAE. Dr. Brian Shiger, President of the UAE Singapore Business Council, distinguished speakers and guests. Today, we are privileged to host senior representatives of key UAE ministries and agencies who are responsible for the economic flows and investments into the UAE. The speakers will be sharing important information on major developments in the UAE economic ecosystem to ensure you have a sufficient understanding and knowledge to consider when expanding your business into the UAE. To begin the event, I now have the pleasure to invite the Ambassador of the UAE to Singapore, His Excellency Jamal Abdullah Al Suwaidi, to give the welcome remarks. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you, Adriana. Good afternoon, Singapore, and good morning, UAE. Your Excellency, Ambassador Kamal Vaswani, Singapore Ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, Dr. Brian Shiger, President of the UAE Singapore Business Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to the UAE Singapore Workshop on Investment, co-organized by the UAE Embassy in Singapore and the UAE Singapore Business Council, in collaboration with Enterprise Singapore, the UAE Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, and Abu Dhabi Investment Office. The UAE is the most diverse economy in the GCC. Only 30% of our GDP is based on oil and gas. In 2008, Abu Dhabi Economic Vision 2030 was announced, presenting a wide-ranging economic development strategy to reduce dependence on oil and gas and foster a knowledge-based economy. Since then, the UAE has made important strides towards securing growth plans amid global and regional risk, and ensuring economic stability for future generations. In 2019, a long-term residence visa known as the Golden Visa was introduced in the UAE. The aim was to attract highly skilled, knowledgeable individuals, such as investors, entrepreneurs, specialized talents in science, sports, and art, and promising high-achieving students. Other types of visas were also introduced recently in the UAE, such as the Green Visa and the Freelancers Visa. These types of visas enable foreigners to live, work, and study in the UAE without the need of a national sponsor. The initiative is a step to secure UAE's ranking among world's knowledge-based economy. We believe that this will encourage further investment and business activities. Another major boost toward achieving diversity was made in November 2020, when the UAE, United Arab Emirates President, His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, announced or issued a decree to allow 100% foreign ownership of commercial companies. The decree introduced a significant amendment in the UAE federal law and the commercial companies that specifically annuls the requirement for companies to have major Emirati stakeholder or agent, which will eventually permit foreign ownership on onshore commercial companies. This major decision is reflective of the UAE's forward-looking vision to open up its economy by creating favorable legislative environment that will keep pace with the change taking place across the global economy, as well as supporting companies operating in the country. I am pleased to note that in today's webinar, we have representatives from important UAE ministries and agencies that are playing a major role in the implementation and promotion of the UAE's 100% foreign ownership initiative, namely the UAE Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development, and Abu Dhabi Investment Office. I thank the event co-organizer, the UAE SBC, and our collaborating partner, Enterprise Singapore, for their significant contribution to this event. And in conclusion, I'm confident by attending this exclusive event to Singapore companies, you will have the access to the latest and the most accurate information to facilitate your expansion or the expansion of your businesses into the UAE. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now like to invite His Excellency Kamal Vaswani, the Singapore Ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, to give the opening remarks. Your Excellency, please.
Hi everyone. So let me just adjust the camera a little bit. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from warm Abu Dhabi. Hello to my good friend and colleague, His Excellency Jamal Abdullah Al Suwaidi, the UAE Ambassador to Singapore. I think he's lost a little bit of weight working very hard. Dr. Brian Shega, President of the UAE SBC. All the distinguished speakers from a range of ministries and departments in the UAE and from Abu Dhabi. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to speak at this workshop today. I thank the UAE Embassy in Singapore, the SBC, ESG Singapore, and all the participants and the various speakers for taking the initiative to showcase broader UAE-wide as well as Emirate-level developments and opportunities across different sectors here. I think credit to the organizers that COVID has not stopped the momentum of these discussions. The Business Council organized a forum on Fujairah, I recall recently. There was one where we spoke on Kizat, and I know next week there's going to be one on women in business. And these are important platforms to exchange ideas. I'm happy to see the impressive lineup of speakers addressing topics ranging from recent legislative changes and the National Strategy for Industry and Advanced Technology Operation 300 billion to the ease of doing business in the UAE and opportunities in food security. Again, topics at the macro level and at the micro level. And again, many of the particular areas were touched upon by my colleague, Ambassador Jamal, in his remarks earlier. Singapore and the UAE share a similar ethos in being open, culturally diverse societies. We both welcome international trade and investment. We welcome new ideas, and we are keen to test out new technological trends and new ways of doing things. We are both young nations. In fact, Singapore just turned 56, and the UAE will mark its golden jubilee this December. I think one point worth highlighting as well is that we are both increasingly treating COVID-19 as endemic rather than a pandemic. And we are trying to get back to business as usual, or as usual as possibly can be. Perhaps as a mark of our common interests, we have strong trade and investment links. The UAE is Singapore's top trading partner in the Middle East. Similarly, Singapore is a UAE's top trading partner in Southeast Asia. Before COVID, Singapore and UAE's total trade in products increased at an average of 17% year-on-year from 2014 to 2019. This meant that in 2019, our total trade doubled from what it was in 2014. And increasingly, it is heartening to hear of various business deals being done, smaller ones at the SME level. We're also seeing an influx of business people coming in to look at opportunities here to manage the accounts. I'm happy to see that in spite of the pandemic, Singapore and the UAE saw bi-directional investments. This includes Singapore's GIC's investment of about $600 Singapore million into ADNOC's natural gas pipeline network in June 2020, and Mubadala owned Global Foundries' recent announcement to invest 4 billion Singapore dollars in its wafer fab plant in Singapore. That such key investment projects materialize even during an economic downturn shows that the fundamental of our economic relations are strong. This bodes well for the continued growth of our trade and investment links. I hope that industry players on both sides will continue to build on the strong foundation we have and also ventures into new areas of growth. They can play a role in each country's development, be it in food security, urban solutions, new types of energy for the future, or other sectors. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening in the UAE on hydrogen, on carbon capture, on renewables. I'm hopeful that we will see a number of business delegations. In fact, I would say that I'm confident that we will see some business delegations during the upcoming Dubai Expo, which starts in just a few weeks. I know one of my colleagues from the URA is here and will share more on our pavilion later on. The pandemic has highlighted how important it is for the global community to remain closely connected, for better mutual understanding, for better ideas, for better solutions. We are proud to be a participating country in the Expo, with a Singapore pavilion showcasing our urban sustainability solutions to build a better future. The theme Nature, Nurture, Future summarizes our journey towards a livable, sustainable and resilient city. We look forward to welcoming you to our little piece of Singapore within the Dubai Expo. I myself have had the chance to visit the Expo site in general, which is beautiful. It is large. And I've had a chance to visit our pavilion in the making on several instances. And I've been able to see it gradually shape up. And it is beautiful and it showcases the Singapore story. I'll let my colleagues from URA elaborate a little bit more on this later on. Thank you, and I wish you a productive workshop, and I look forward to seeing you here later. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Before we start off the webinar, please allow me to go through with you our program today, which is being displayed on the screen. We have also shared the link to the program on the chat screen so you can refer to it anytime. The event will begin with presentations by speakers from the UAE Ministry of Economy, the UAE Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, the Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and representatives from the Singapore Pavilion in the Expo 2020 Dubai. The session will be followed by a joint Q&A panel discussion with all the speakers representing the UAE ministries and agencies, moderated by UAE Singapore Business Council President, Dr. Brian Sheikh. If you have any questions, please type your questions in the Q&A window. The moderator will only select questions submitted in the Q&A window. If your question is directed to a specific speaker, kindly indicate the name of the speaker in your question. Kindly note to avoid posing questions in the chat window. If you have any technical queries or issues, you can inform us via the chat window. I would now like to invite our first speaker, Ms. Hind Al-Yuha, Director of Investment and Talent Attraction in the UAE Ministry of Economy. Ms. Hind will be discussing the topic of UAE investment environment and latest amendments on the UAE commercial company laws. Ms. Hind, please.
Good morning, Excellencies and distinguished guests. Good morning, our Ambassador Jamal Al-Suwaidi and Excellency Kamal Basabani. And good morning from the Dubai time and good afternoon, Singapore time. I would like to welcome you all to today's presentation on the UAE investment ecosystem, in which it will touch upon the prominent features and incentives granted to foreign investors, which is really derived from the company's law. The UAE economy, following up our Excellency, the Ambassador, His Excellency Jamal Al-Suwaidi, in his opening keynote speech, where His Excellency highlighted that the UAE economy is a diversified economy in which our GDP is based on a non-oil. 70% of the GDP comes from the non-oil sector and 30% from the oil sector. If we want to cascade down and look at the percentage distribution of the economic activities of the non-oil sector, we can find out that it is from the wholesale and retail, manufacturing, construction, financial and insurance, as transportation, real estate, public administration, electricity, information, professional, accommodation, administration, and others. And here I would like to stop and highlight an important point where the UAE economy and Singapore economy, we share similarity between each other. And always when we conduct a benchmark studies, because it's really critical, always Singapore is one of the top countries where we build a benchmark due to the similarities between our both economies. Looking at our top non-oil trading partners, as you can see, China comes number one, second India, Saudi, USA, Switzerland, Iran, Japan, Oman, Germany, and Kuwait. These are the non-oil trading partners. In 2015, the UAE government realized the importance of innovation, the importance of having a focused strategy on innovation, which aids building a knowledge-based economy, because having a knowledge-based economy supports a diversified economy. And this strategy focuses on 7 key sectors, which is renewable, transportation, education, health, technology, water, and space. And these sectors are also the sectors that we are keen to attract investments in, even post-COVID. UAE investment environment. Why we are so special and why UAE is sought after a destination. Before elaborating on our investment environment, let's see numbers. As you can see, even though it's 2020, even though it's COVID-19, we are ranked 15 globally by the UNCTAD report, and we progressed 9 ranks in the inflow, in which we were 24 in 2019, and we progressed to 15 in 2020 with a growth rate of 11.2%. Looking at the regions, we are 1 in the Arab countries, 1 in the Middle East and Africa, and 1 in the West Asia as an inflow. Also, we focus on the outflow of investments. In the outflow of investments, we are ranked 13 globally as per the UNCTAD report. We were 19 in 2019, and we progressed to 13 in 2020. Also, we are number 1 in the same region, Arab countries, Middle East, and West Asia. I'd like to start with the numbers because numbers are self-explanatory about the environment. Then we will now explain our next, please, environment. We have 134 agreements related to encouragement and protection of investments, and these agreements are to increase. Of course, the golden visa for investors, His Excellency, our ambassador, Jamal, also, next please, explained about the golden visa, and we made it more easier to grant this visa where the criteria are isn't, and it's granted to investors, to innovative freelancers. It varies between 10 years and 5 years, and there are different criteria. UAE investment environment. Why UAE? Why UAE is the sought after? What's so special in the UAE? We are marked by stability. God bless and protect our leaders. we have modern infrastructure, we have strong economic policies, and COVID didn't affect us dramatically. Expo is less than a month and it will be on the ground. Modern economic legislations, strategic trade hub offering access to regional markets. Just 2 days ago, the launch of the new residency visa on Sunday, the green visa and the freelancers visa, free transfer of profit, revenue, and assets. There is no income tax, efficient legal and court systems. We have numerous laws that protects the capital, such as the intellectual property rights, competition, money laundering, and trust. And you know what's so special is in the UAE, we have 7 emirates, and each emirate has its own beauty. So people are different. People have different interests, and they can enjoy the sophisticated lifestyle in any of the 7 emirates in the United Arab Emirates. We have world-class infrastructure, low custom tariffs between 7 and 5% for almost all the goods. Our currency is stable. And it's linked, like the exchange rate is linked with other currencies without restrictions. Ambitious reforms. We have ongoing reforms, efficient government, smart government initiatives, and the proof is that our government didn't stop even with the COVID-19. Most of the government stopped. However, the UAE government didn't stop. We were working from home. COVID-19, but we didn't stop. And global aviation hub. Next, please. Next, please. Yes, this one. The prominent features and investments granted to foreign investors. A proof after COVID-19, there was a mega reform, and we had the investment law, and it was a new law, and it only grants 122 economic activities to investors, but we always in the United Arab Emirates change pandemics to challenges and to opportunities. And we granted this to an opportunity in which the law has been changed, and we provide 100% ownership to most or the numerous number of economic activities, except a minimum number of strategic impact activities, which I'll explain to you later, with a target of reaching 1 million companies in the next 10 years. Focusing on sectors of manufacturing, high-tech industry, digital economies, and entertainment industries. This will give confidence to investors. It will increase our global investment index. It will increase our global competitiveness index, our ease of doing business. So investors will have full ownership to most economic activities except of the strategic impact, full ownership of all legal forms of companies, possibilities of ownership in sectors with a strategic impact under certain legislations. There is no need for a local service agent. The foreign investor is the owner of his business. He is treated as a national company. Freedom of settling disputes, allowing members of the board of directors of the public shareholders companies to be non-shareholders. no minimum capital requirements for limited liabilities, controlling the entire membership of the board of directors. You can introduce partners, transfer the ownership, changing the legal form of the companies, merger and acquisition, and we are confident that companies grow in the UAE and you will not reach to the liquidation stage. 7 sectors only are of a strategic impact. And when we did the economic study, extensive economic study, we realized that these sectors are really not of the interest of investors. Investors come in other different economic activities, security and defense, exchange bureaus and insurance, currency, printing, telecom, Hajj and Umrah, Holy Quran, and fishery. UAE FDI strategy. We have an FDI strategy post-COVID focusing on certain sectors that we realize that they will be booming, and we suggest investors to look at and come and invest in the UAE, and we can support them, link them to the 7 Emirates and create the B2B or B2G meetings. Retail and e-commerce, agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing. And in the next presentation, my colleague, Dr. Al-Mahri, will present the strategy of manufacturing in details. Fintech, logistic, entertainment and gaming, supply chain, space, medical wellness, ICT, renewable energy, education. And most of these sectors, Singapore are really so special and will be of a value adding when they come and grow in the UAE. Next, please. We, at the investment department, at the Ministry of Economy, we provide data that is needed for the investors. We provide facilitations. We assist the investors to arrange meetings until they get their license. We also provide an aftercare service after they establish their business and still they need some other meetings. They build, they create a network. We coordinate meetings for them as B2G and B2B meetings between the local governments and the external companies, and with the embassies abroad, with the other entities in the Emirates, so we can support the investors from day one. They get to the UAE embassy in Singapore and they get transferred to us in the investment department, and we support them to establish their business. We also have an outflow strategy in which we would like to know what are the projects of Singapore, and we can circulate them to companies that invest abroad in order and support them via our embassy in Singapore. And our outflow strategy focus on cybersecurity, healthcare, renewable, building, robotics, blockchain, consumer companies, fintech, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, agriculture, transportation, consumer companies, 3D printing, sustainable transport, and digital content, 5G. So any projects of a high potential in Singapore, We also support the outflow and direct our UAE companies to invest in certain sectors, and we can provide them with the projects that we receive from the embassy. And our strategy in the outflow, we to diversify our economy. We don't interrelate with the politics. We transfer knowledge. We strengthen our relationship between the UAE and the world. We transfer knowledge. We implement the policy of diversification, creating jobs, sustainable investment, and we are aligning our long-term investments. Like when we invest, we have a long-term investment, not we just come invest for a long period of time. I mean, short period of time. We come and invest for a sustainable long-term investment. Please visit our website at the Ministry of Economy. You can email us and contact us at any time. And also, if you have any other inquiries or support, you can reach us through our embassy in Singapore, and they will transfer all your requirements to us, the investment department. And before I end up my presentation, I would like to thank our embassy in Singapore, His Excellency Jamal Suwaidi and his esteemed team. And I would like to thank all the organizers behind this event, because really this event is of critical importance in order to share what is the latest reforms and to build a network and exchange information for the next steps. Thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Hind, for the informative presentation. May we now invite our next speaker, Dr. Abdullah Al-Mari, Director of Investments and Stakeholder Management in the UAE Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. Dr. Abdullah will be sharing on the topic of National Strategy for Industry and Advanced Technology, Operation 300 Billion. Dr. Abdullah, please.
Thank you very much. And I will be taking you through Operation 300 Billion. But before I start, I'd like to thank His Excellency Jamal for this invitation, His Excellency Kamal also, and the UAE Embassy in Singapore and the UAE Singapore Business Council. So I will be talking you through Operation 300 Billion, which is the national strategy for industries in the United Arab Emirates. So I'll start with a little bit about the industrial sector, a little bit about the numbers, what are some of the challenges and competitive advantages. Then I'll discuss Operation 300 Billion and talk about the strategy and strategic objectives of Operation 300 Billion, and maybe highlight some of the priority sectors which were briefly touched upon by my colleague Hind. There's also some of the initiatives that are focused on enabling the industry, which I'll highlight. Then briefly, I'll talk to you about some of the incentives that are available for the industrial sector. And lastly, Make It in the Emirates, the campaign, and that is the call for action to come and make it in the Emirates. It's a call for action for innovators, investors to come and invest in the United Arab Emirates. So a little bit about the numbers. The industrial sector today is made up of about 33,000 industrial companies. There's about 773,000 employees in this sector, and it contributes about 8.4% or 133 billion to the GDP, and that is through the manufacturing value add, or the MVA. So the ministry has been established very recently, and I'll talk to you through I'll have a slide specifically on the establishment of the ministry. But in informing the strategy for the UAE, the national strategy for UAE industries, global shifts have been considered. Among them is sustainability, and among them is, of course, COVID-19's impact and the way we saw COVID-19 impact the world. So these are some of the incentives that are general to the UAE, and maybe I won't go too much into detail into them because my colleague Hind has covered some of them. But maybe I would like to highlight that the UAE has a reliable source of raw material and raw gas, which enables industries downstream of the oil and gas industry, specifically the petrochemical industry. That's something that's very attractive of the United Arab Emirates. We're also ranked 16th in terms of doing business, attractiveness or ease of doing business. And maybe one more item that I'd like to highlight is that we have a world-class logistics. We are a world-class logistics hub. And you're, I think, well aware of our famous ports in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi has also Kizad. And we also have a world-class IT infrastructure that's available in the UAE, which is very important to enable industries and enable the deployment of advanced technologies in industries. So, as I mentioned, the ministry has been established very recently. It was the first time a ministry has been established in the UAE to focus specifically on industry. The ministry was established in July of 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. The focus there was to enable and focus on industries, and it brought together three entities, or three main entities. The main entities were SME, which was responsible for standards, conformity, and accreditation. And the idea there was standards should be enabling or enabler to industries. The other one is, of course, industry, which was part of previously the Ministry of Energy, and now has joined and become its own ministry to focus specifically and enable industries. And then you have the Advanced Technology Office. The Advanced Technology Office was an office that was a standalone office, and that fell under directly the Prime Minister's office. So those three entities came together, and the idea there is to increase the competitiveness of UAE based products by deploying advanced technologies to improve efficiencies and increase productivity. And standards is thought of today as an enabler to the industries by putting together the right standards and regulations to enable such local production. So Operation 300 billion. And as the name indicates, Operation 300 billion, the main objective is to increase the MVA, or the contribution towards the GDP, from the current 133 billion today, where it stands, to 300 billion, and that is within 10 years. These are very, very stretched and targets that we aspire to achieve with the support of several entities in the UAE. Among them is all, of course, the government entities, and we work very closely at the federal level and also at the local levels between each emirates. So I can't imagine a week without meeting with the Ministry of Economy at this time. So we continuously work together with both the government and semi-government to achieve these objectives. And from the objectives of Operation 300 billion are fourfold. So the first one is to create an attractive and engaged business environment. So there's several initiatives that are targeting making it easier to do business in the UAE. Number two is to increase the competitiveness of homegrown products in the international market. And the third is to stimulate the deployment of advanced technologies in the UAE industries. And the fourth is to boost the UAE's reputation as a hub for future industries. And I'll talk you through what we classify today as future industries. So The UAE industrial sector today is composed heavily of the industries that you see here, and that is chemicals, heavy industries, defense, electrical, and equipment. But we're also focused on future industries, and these future industries are agri-tech, medical technology, pharmaceuticals, hydrogen, and space. So we see these as industries of the future that we aspire to grow. And some of these industries actually exist today, but they might not be at the level that we aspire them to be. So we've had our success stories when it comes to space and satellite manufacturing. When it comes to hydrogen, we also used to produce small quantities, but recently we've actually scaled that up in Ruwais, and that's blue hydrogen. When it comes to green hydrogen, we also are producing it at a pilot plant in Dubai, and that pilot plant, or that supply of green hydrogen, is meant to supply the transportation buses in Expo 2020. As far as pharmaceuticals, we've had also our strive towards producing the vaccine locally. And then as far as agri-tech, we're working also heavily on trying to increase and boost the contribution of agri-tech. And agri-tech focus here came actually, given COVID-19, the impact we've seen and the importance of self-sufficiency when it comes to food and food security. Agri-tech became a very important sector. All right, so this is the ministry's focus areas, all on one slide, so the 11 sectors that I mentioned. All right, maybe I'll start with talking you through some of the initiatives that are in the ongoing within the ministry today, and that is to reduce reliance on imports. So we've set a target, and that's 42 billion dirhams, and actually tried to distribute that target across different industries. Among them is minerals, chemicals, F&B, and pharmaceuticals. And we've put these targets by industry, and we're trying to increase homegrown products to be able to reduce the reliance on such imports. Another one is the ICV program. The ICV program is meant to increase local content, and the idea here is to enable and grow local industries and support local industries through local procurement. So each company would be ranked in terms of ICV, in terms of their local content, and that process will, or that score will be integrated into the procurement process. And the idea here is to encourage local companies to procure locally. So there's also a national strategy when it comes to advanced technology. And the objectives are threefold here. The idea is to create an integrated ecosystem in R&D. So we've seen that R&D efforts in terms of are a bit fragmented in the UAE. So the decision here was to do a national strategy and specifically direct the R&D investments in specific areas that will enable industries. The other one is to boost industrial sector's efficiency through adopting the fourth IR technology that I mentioned, and that is to increase the competitiveness of our products. And third is to launch the advanced technology agenda for priority sectors, so a national agenda for each of the specifically future industries. Made in the Emirates is another initiative that we're making, and the idea here is to create a national identity or a national brand. Made in the Emirates. So Made in the Emirates is a brand that we're trying to create, but would at the same time enable different Emirates to create their own customized focus. So the logo there is on the left, as you see it, Made in the Emirates. Made in the Emirates idea. Under it, you could have Dubai or Abu Dhabi. So it gives sort of a bespoke option to each emirate, but while at the same time having a local national brand that identifies UAE products. Now, maybe I'll mention Make It in the Emirates, or Make It in the Emirates, the campaign. So Made in the Emirates is the brand, as I mentioned just briefly. Make It in the Emirates is the campaign for action, or the call for action. And the idea is to invest in the UAE and call upon innovators and investors to come and make it in the UAE. So we have a platform today. The platform is Make It in the Emirates. It's on the website, or the Moyat website. The link we could share with you. If you look up Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, or moiat.gov.ae, you'll find the website. Under it is the Make It in the Emirates platform. The Make It in the Emirates platform, through that platform, you could reach out to us, connect with us. We can support in terms of providing the right financing solutions through some of our strategic partners. We could also work on addressing some of the challenges that you might have in setting up, or issues that you might face in the process. So any support that you would need would come through the platform Make It in the Emirates, and it would be logged, and we would reach out to you for support. Now, maybe some of the incentives. These are incentives that are available for industries today. So we're working also on a strategic gas and utility tariff for the industrial sector. This is one of the initiatives that's ongoing in the UAE, and the idea here is to increase the competitiveness of UAE products. Another one is the attractive financing solution. I think this was at the establishment of the ministry, this was a very big focus area. We worked very hard to ensure that the industrial sector has the financing needed and the support needed. So interest rates are starting from 3.99 with a payback period up to 12 years. I mentioned the National In-Country Value Program as another incentive that's available to grow local industries. We also have a mutual recognition program, and that is through our SME team, or the standards, specifically standards and conformity team, with over 89 countries. The idea here, it actually improves access to markets. So with these mutual recognition, our products can access international markets easily. And there's other specific incentives that are related to quality marks and so on. With regards to certification, we also have a hybrid evaluation process, given this is something that we started post-COVID. When it comes to also advanced technology, I think my colleague had mentioned the Golden Visa. So the Golden Visa is also available for scientists, researchers, and specialists in the field of advanced technology. And this will be the end of my slides. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or support. You could either reach us through our website, moyat, moiat.gov.ae, or you could, of course, reach us through our embassy in the UAE, and they will pass your comments or requests to us directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah, for the enlightening presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have just joined us, please be informed that we will conduct the Q&A during the panel discussion at the last segment of the event. If you have any questions, please type it in the Q&A window. The moderator will pose your questions to the speakers during the Q&A. In the event your question is unanswered during the panel, please be assured that we will email you the reply after the event. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now invite our next speakers who are representing the Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development. Mr. Rabi Salmi Al-Hajari, Acting Executive Director of Commercial Affairs, and Ms. Hala Khalid Al-Amari, Executive Director of Competitiveness Office. Mr. Rabi and Ms. Hala will be presenting on the topic of foreign ownership, ease of doing business, and economic incentives. Mr. Rabi and Ms. Hala, please.
Yes, good morning from Abu Dhabi, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rabi' Salmin Al-Hajri, the Executive Director of Commercial Affairs. Myself and my colleague Hala will take you through the doing business in Abu Dhabi. And really, I'm really appreciating the opportunity of participating in such an event. So let's start the video, the presentation. Share the screen. As actually His Excellency the Ambassador Jamal and my colleague Hind from Ministry of Economy started, the government of UAE in order to strengthen the economy and enabling non-locals to participate in the economy of UAE, they enabled the foreign ownership, which enables non-UAE investors to own up to 100% of company shares on a variety, like approximately 5 legal forms that provides the flexibility of the businesses to practice or to do their businesses within the economy of UAE. DEDA, Department of Economic Development in Abu Dhabi, enabled them immediately to have those licenses on 13 sectors, such as agriculture, industry, and contracting, wholesale, and those major sectors which are really highly demanded by investors to enter the market of United Arab Emirates and specifically Abu Dhabi. The excluded sectors also, it doesn't mean that those sectors will not be, the investors will not be able to participate on that. They can participate and invest their money or investments in participation with locals. So there is like kind of control on those which are strategic sectors, which the government would like to keep them for the certain time now. However, other than commercial and industrial sectors, professionals and freelancers are welcome to the United Arab Emirates and Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi started like several packages along with the current ones, such as Tajer Abu Dhabi, which enables investors to work from home for 3 years at least, and enables them to get 3 work permits or employees within 1,000 plus activities. Freelancers who are going to have or yet to have their own freelancing visa, they are able to have like license to do business with government, specifically government entities within 52 activities, such as the consultancy activities. Other like such as food and beverage and crafting activities, people will still be able to do business. They will still be able to have 100% ownership, but they still require local sponsor agent. So they will remain using the old way of doing their business within the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, but they will be 100% owning their investments, and it's secure for them. In order to help investors and enable them to do their business and guide them through the process, which is easy actually, but to make sure that they've been taken care, we created a program called Ma'ak, which will provide legal advices on the specific economic or legal form and economic activities. They will help, this team will help investors to overcome challenges, if any, As you will see with my colleague Hala, we like overcame with lots of challenges and requirements within the Emirates of Abu Dhabi, and offers other services such as enable them to meet with, or to direct them to meet with some investors in coordination with the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. So this team will be available 24/7 days a week to guide investors, to support investors during the process of licensing and doing business. This email in the bottom of this page, maak@ded.abudhabi.ae, will receive all the inquiries and requests for that, and the team agents will reply back to them and will cater them. Now I'll move the speech to my colleague Hala to continue with the progress of the COAD. Hala?
Thank you, Rabia. Good morning, Your Excellencies, esteemed guests. So as Rabia mentioned, that the Abu Dhabi government launched a number of initiatives to enhance the business environment and attract investments to the capital. One of the initiatives that we launched early in August, late July, is the fixed fee of 1,000 dirhams to issue the economic license. So the DED, in partnership with other local government entities, reduced the setup and renewal fees for economic licenses by more than 90% to a fixed fee of 1,000 dirhams annually. So this update on the reduction of fee, or the new fee structure, actually, we can look at it from a wider context. So after the pandemic, the government has taken various measures to support private sector and economy. And from one of them is this 1,000 fixed fees. We hope that this initiative can increase the transparency to the private sector in order to do their financial planning, provide a favorable environment by reducing the cost of doing and operating business in Abu Dhabi. We will increase competitiveness and attract more investment, inshallah. So what does this 1,000 dirhams include? First of all, I'm happy to say that it covers all kind of activities, so commercial and also as industrial activities. And the 1,000 dirhams also cover a number of other entities' fees, local entities, like, for example, the Department of Municipality and Transport, the waste management, the membership of the Chamber of Commerce. It's all included within the 1,000 dirhams. So all local government entities are included in this 1,000 dirhams. We hope that this new fee structure will decrease the burden, the administrative burden, and the cost of doing business in Abu Dhabi. Definitely, it's a landmark decision. And we hope it will help us attract more investors and make Abu Dhabi a competitive city in the region. Also, maybe I can clarify that the 1,000 dirham includes 6 different activities. So the investor can add 6 different activities within the license, and any extra activity he would like to add will cost him only 100 dirhams per activity. So it included also the 5% of that we used to take on economic rental based on the rental value. So the 5% is also included within this, let's say, fixed fee. Next slide, please, Rabia. Another initiative that the Abu Dhabi government announced early last month is the reduction of business operation requirements. So basically, we reduced 71% in requirements to start new commercial businesses, making it much easier to set up a new venture in Abu Dhabi. A task force led by the Department of Economic Development was able to reduce the requirements to, we can say it's a prerequisites, the prerequisites that were set to start your business. So we were able to reduce it across different local and federal government entities. Of course, that would help reducing time, reducing the cost needed to embark a new venture. We hope from this exercise that we help and support the businesses to thrive and grow in Abu Dhabi. This is some of the initiatives that we are working on. Inshallah, by the end of the month, also we are upgrading our one-stop shop as part of the investor journey program. So we would also include different services like opening a bank account, property finder, where it will help investors to search for, let's say, empty offices or empty spaces to start their businesses if they're required. It will all be in one, let's say, platform that would support businesses to start their business much easier, less costly, and reduce the time to start or operate businesses in Abu Dhabi. Inshallah, we'll be happy to take questions in the Q&A session. I think that's all for our presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rabi and Ms. Hala, for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Salvatore Lavallo, Head of Foreign Domestic Investments for the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. Mr. Salvatore will be sharing with you on the opportunities in food security available in Abu Dhabi. Mr. Salvatore, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Your Excellencies, and everybody for attending the event today. We're very happy to be chatting with you about one of the key sectors that we have been looking at within the government of Abu Dhabi, which is agriculture and food security. So we always like to start our presentations with a quotation from our founding father, Sheikh Zayed, who said, "Give me agriculture and I will give you civilization." And this we like to start with to show that agriculture innovation is not something that is new to Abu Dhabi or new to the way that Abu Dhabi is looking at impacting the world and the types of innovation that we are focusing. Since our founding 50 years ago, it has been something that has always been focused on about how can we make sure that we are providing food security to the population here, but also producing the technologies that can enable food security to be improved around the world. In the past 10 years or so, we have had a real change in the focus on food security in the UAE. We're the first country in the world to have a Ministry of Food Security. We have increased our technological aspects of the 35,000 farms in the UAE, including irrigation technologies, including access to market, and including consolidation of those farmings. We have also then, about 2 years ago, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, through the God on 21 program, we launched a $1 billion dirham ag tech program. Since then, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office has given financial incentives to 8 different agriculture companies to be expanding into Abu Dhabi, some of which I will be going through later on in the presentation. When we think about what is the focus on agriculture in the UAE and in Abu Dhabi, there's really 3 main approaches to food security. The first is on import substitution, the second is on sustainability and waste management, and the third is on local production. What we're really focused on at the Abu Dhabi Investment Office is the local production side. When we're thinking about that, we think in 2 main ways. One is how do we support and upskill the existing farms in Abu Dhabi by providing new technologies to them. And the second is how do we look at new forms of production. Within that kind of food security space, then we have 2 main goals within our vision. The first is to build a desert and arid climate agricultural innovation hub. About a third of the world's population is now living in desert and arid climates, and that is only increasing. And so the problems that we face here in Abu Dhabi are problems that are faced all around the world. And so we're looking at how can we produce exportable technology from Abu Dhabi? How can we make sure that we are leading and working really well together with other markets in order to focus on this? And then also looking at support of the future of food security. So looking at new ways, new innovations that really adjust the focus on agriculture that we're currently seeing around the world, and making sure that we are at the forefront of that innovation. So when we think about the different types of technologies that we're speaking to, different companies that we are trying to attract to Abu Dhabi, we think in those two ways. The first on new technologies for the traditional farmer. So this is a lot around the type of irrigation that's used, the type of knowledge that is gained through the data management, AI-enabled data management, and also looking at new types of technologies that can be added in terms of sensing, robotics, etc. The other area that we've been looking at is new methods of food production, so new types of agricultural production that can be done. We've had a large focus on indoor vertical farming. We've also been looking at ways to take the super summer situation that happens in Abu Dhabi and seeing how we can still grow plants during that time of the year, but also new types of things that we can grow, looking at alternative proteins such as algae, looking at new types of like cellular-based agriculture, which obviously Singapore is the first country to regulate the sale of cellular-based agriculture. So really leading the way, and we're excited to work with lots of Singaporean companies on looking at the potential future of that in the UAE. When we talk to companies about the opportunity for agtech in Abu Dhabi, we are thinking around the ideas of both the macro of the country, which you've heard a lot about today, and the way that we are growing, the way that we are top 30 economy in the world, 60% of the UAE economy, but also the way that we are connected with the rest of the world. So having 30% of the world's population within a 3-hour flight and 80% of it within that 8-hour flight really makes it a great logistics hub, but also a place to bring the rest of the world and to have companies that are impacting the rest of the world. We like to say that we aren't under any delusion that we are ourselves a large enough domestic market to have a global company, and so we want companies to instantly be global from Abu Dhabi. We want companies in Abu Dhabi to be not only impacting our own domestic market, but to be looking around the world. So we have lots of companies, especially in the agriculture space, who are doing their R&D here, who are starting their production here, but who are looking more broadly at Southeast Asia, about the Asian subcontinent, East Africa, about the broader Middle East, and looking at all these places to have Abu Dhabi as a base or Abu Dhabi as a branch that can then impact the rest of the region. We also work really broadly with the different ecosystem players to make sure that we, number one, have a one Abu Dhabi approach, so that we are ensuring that you don't have to go to 10 different entities to understand what is the strategy, what are the ways that can be helped. So we work together with all the policy and regulatory bodies within the agricultural space, the Office of Food and Water Security, the Abu Dhabi Agriculture and Food Security Authority, many others. We also have a goal of having a full menu of options being available to companies. So whereas the investment office is able to provide financial incentives, there are other government entities that are able to provide equity investment, that are able to look at debt, that are able to do offtake agreements, that are able to have the land access. And so we want to make sure that this entire ecosystem is working really well together, that we're communicating. And this is something that we have done quite well in agriculture, and something that we're looking at doing in the other sectors that we're focusing on as the government of Abu Dhabi. In terms of the type of support more specifically that we provide at the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, it's really divided into both financial incentives and non-financial incentives. On the non-financial side, we provide first an investor concierge team. They're really there to demystify the process of establishing a business in Abu Dhabi and seeing that growth in Abu Dhabi. So they help with visas, they help with licensing, they help with finding land. They're really there to handhold and provide a white glove service to investors to make sure that it's as easy of a landing as possible. The second thing that we have as well is relationship managers. So every company that we provide incentives to has a dedicated relationship manager who is their single point of contact within the government of Abu Dhabi, and is really their support system to make sure that they're kept aware of all of the changes that are happening and the ways that they can take advantage of that. The third thing that we do is, again, the ecosystem enablement. So looking at how can we support on the types of policies that might need to be changed, the regulatory support. How can we look at any kind of exemption that needs to be done? What are the barriers to entry, the barriers to growth? And then really taking that feedback from the private sector and providing it to the public sector, and seeing ways that we can make sure that Abu Dhabi continues, Abu Dhabi continues to be the most, one of the most competitive markets in the world, and one of the easiest places in the world to do business. In terms of the financial incentives that we provide provide support through a rebate program, which is pay and reclaim. So we don't take any equity, we don't take any IP ownership, we don't take any commercial interest. It's non-dilutive. We really feel like it's founder friendly. It supports the companies. It enables them to really have that growth in Abu Dhabi. The structure of it is that we can look at the costs that will be incurred in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, and then we're able to cover a percentage of those costs. So typically we look at two main areas. The first would be on high skilled payroll and high tech capex, and the second would be cost competitiveness areas, which really depends on the type of company or the type of project in Abu Dhabi. So this might be land costs, utility costs, visa costs. You know, really depends on what the company will be incurring in Abu Dhabi and the way that we see that impact. Obviously, because we're not taking that equity interest or any kind of IP interest, we're then not able to look at the impact as purely a return on investment or an IRR, an ROI that we would be focused on. So instead, we're looking more holistically at the impact on Abu Dhabi, which we define by looking at some of the quantitative metrics, such as the total investment or the total number of jobs, but also looking qualitatively at what kind of reputational impact this company would have, what is the sector disruption that would be having by bringing this project into Abu Dhabi, what is the education and upskilling initiatives that might be aligned with this that will enable the knowledge economy around Abu Dhabi to succeed, and also looking at the alignment with our ESG, environmental, social governance policies that we as the Abu Dhabi Investment Office have published earlier this year. So we look more holistically at what is that impact, how is a project really benefiting the development of Abu Dhabi, not just in an economic way, but in a societal way. In terms of the companies that we have supported in the agricultural space, we have so far publicly announced 8 agreements. 3 of them have been with Indoor Vertical Farms, Aero Farms, which is a company from the United States, which is building a large R&D center in Abu Dhabi. Madar Farms, which is a locally grown company that is doing an indoor vine crop in Kizad, one of the free zones in Abu Dhabi. And then Pure Harvest, which is another locally grown company that is looking to produce also vine crops in Al Ain region in Abu Dhabi. We also then have 3 companies that are in the more innovative space. RNZ is a fertilizer company that takes the waste sulfides from the Abu Dhabi oil industry and produces inorganic and organic fertilizers. Responsive Drip Irrigation is a company from the United States that is has a technology that is the first irrigation technology that allows plants to self-regulate their water intake. They're doing an R&D facility as well as manufacturing facility in Abu Dhabi. Nanorax is a really exciting company, which is from the United States. They are building an agriculture and space research center here in Abu Dhabi. So Nanorax is the largest private sector owner of space on the International Space Station. And they are looking at how can we grow things in space, how can we provide food to space explorers and to astronauts, and they're doing a lot of that from Abu Dhabi. And then we're also have announced a couple aquaculture and fish farming companies. The first is Fresh to Home, which is from India. They're the world's largest e-commerce player for fresh fish. And then also Pure Salmon, which is a large salmon producer around the world that is looking to set up a facility in Abu Dhabi. So these are some of the companies that we've supported in the agriculture space. At the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, we're also looking at the financial services sector, which we've just announced 2 companies in. We're looking at the ICT sector, which we've announced 8 companies in. We're also looking at tourism and at healthcare. And so we hope to be adding more companies to these lists soon, and hopefully some of those companies will be coming from Singapore. So thank you so much, and we would love to hear from any of you. Please let us know at inquiries@audio.ae, and then we will be touching base again with you shortly, inshallah.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore, for the very insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the Q&A segment of the webinar, we are pleased to invite representatives of 2 speakers who will share with you about the Singapore Pavilion at the Expo 2020 in Dubai. From the Singapore Urban Redevelopment Authority, we have Senior Planner Mr. Chang Jun Biao, who will be giving an overview of the Singapore Pavilion. And from the Radius International, we have Head of Marketing and Sponsorship, Ms. Jaslyn Neal, who will be sharing on partnership opportunities for Singapore businesses at the Pavilion.
Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're calling from. Your Excellencies and distinguished guests. My name is Chin Piao. I'm part of the Singapore Pavilion team, and I'll be giving you a very quick overview of the Pavilion at Expo 2020 before handing over to my colleague Jessie to show you how you can possibly be part of the Expo Singapore Pavilion. So let me just share my screen with you. Okay, I'll start off with a very quick overview of the Pavilion team, which is Singapore, Nature, Nurture and Future. And the story that we are basically trying to tell here is of how Singapore overcomes our physical limitations to promote not only a green and sustainable way of living, where we continue to nurture both our land and our people, but also create more possibilities for the future. And what you see here is a diagram of the pavilion. And in the first part, basically the ground level where visitors enter on the left-hand side is designed as a garden space. And the key exhibits here are actually located in the three conical structures here. And there are a series of ramps called the canopy walk that will take you through these cones and also up to the upper levels of the pavilion, where you will eventually arrive at the Sky Market at the top floor. And over here, we have exhibits that present how Singapore is actually creating a livable city through our various urban solutions, as well as content showcasing the different facets of our culture. And towards the end of the journey, basically there are exhibits that we try to stimulate thoughts on how our collective actions can help to make all cities more livable and resilient. Going into the visitor journey, this is what you will see upon arrival. You will basically be greeted by large three-dimensional greenery, a water garden, and a display of our national flower, the Vanda Miss Joachim. And upon stepping inside the pavilion, the first stop will be the city cone, which is the cone right in the center, to view the multimedia show, before you head up the canopy walk on your left. So this 3 to 4 minute long show will be a creative interpretation of the global challenges that are being faced by the world and how Singapore is rethinking the way we design our cities to mitigate challenges brought about by climate change as well as the ongoing pandemic. After the show, as you head up the canopy walk, this is where you will be able to start appreciating the multi-layered greenery and the multiple ground levels that has been designed here. And there will be lookout and vantage points along the way, which are also good photo spots. And here we have, in fact, throughout the pavilion, we have dry mist fans that are deployed to ensure thermal comfort. Inside the flower cone, you can view a kaleidoscopic installation of colors, lights, a wall of orchid blooms, symbolizing creativity and innovation. While in the rainforest cone, you'll be immersed inside with a kinetic dipterocarp sculpture in the center, and once again surrounded by the large green walls. And as you arrive at the Sky Market, this is basically an open platform that is for activities and designed to be casual, fun and relaxing, with both seating and food stalls. The exhibits and programming here will provide insights into Singapore's urban solutions for livability, for example, how we manage our water resources, our vertical greenery, how we ensure the city is well connected, and so on, which in turn creates a conducive environment for a vibrant Singapore culture. And an arena space at the end of the Sky Market serves as a venue for talks, workshops, as well as film screenings. And after the Sky Market, you head back to the ground level, where the final stop is a retail gallery that showcases a collection of sustainably designed products by our Singaporean artists and designers. And you'll also be able to play a game on mobile devices that generates a digital artwork on the wall in the center. The entire journey will be complemented by programming, and our pavilion programming is generally aligned to the Expo thematic weeks, which are spread out over the 6-month duration, particularly in areas of climate, biodiversity, urban development, health, food, agriculture, as well as water. And within the pavilion, there will be regular daily programs, monthly programs, as well as special programs during the special days. And I just want to show you some actual photos of the pavilion that have been taken the past couple of weeks to just give you a sneak preview of how it looks like in reality. So this is the front facade and the mist fence, the canopy walk that takes you to the upper levels, and the spaces in between the tree cones. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a good overview, and I will now hand over to Jasly to take you through the partnership opportunities.
Thank you, Bell. Hi, everyone. Let me share the screen. Okay, like what Jim Bell has actually mentioned, that the Singapore Pavilions is now on the road of completion, and I would like to share with you some of the information on the partnerships as well. So I think, as we all know, World Expo is about a world fair to bring together different nations as one world to share ideas on innovations and solutions that we can provide to the world. Hence, with the participations of 191 countries, and this is the largest shows in this region itself, and we'll be expecting millions of visitors to come over and thousands of businesses connections to happen within this expo. So how does Singapore company comes on board to play a part and grow your business connections? Like what Jim Pia has also mentioned, there is this part where we call the Singapore Sky Markets, and there is this curated area which is called the Arena. This is a sections that we will be presenting different business social kind of thematic programs that we encourage companies to come on board to join us as a business members, for them to be able to partake in the conversations of our curated speakers list of programs that we have actually done for the next 6 months. As I mentioned, this is called the Singapore Business Series itself, and this is where we actually collate with, will be inside with the thematic weeks that the Expo has actually curated. So we have invited speakers to come on board to actually talk about certain programs or certain topics that is very relevant to Singapore, as well as to the businesses that is happening to talk about during the thematic weeks of the Expo. And this is where we allow the business pack owners itself to come and pitch and plug their business ideas of 30 seconds to be able to actually engage to the rest of the businesses around the world. So this business pack is not just about attending the programs that we have curated. This is an opportunity for businesses to be able to connect to the rest of the businesses and contact over the rest of the world, because there is this exclusive app that is actually happening, that was being designed by the Expo, called the B2B Expo Business App. This is where an opportunity for people to reach out to thousands of businesses and operations, or even different professionals and organizations that is happening and participating in this expo. And all the business pack members will have a 30 seconds kind of a window period for them to pitch and plug their business ideas and products and services within our programs as well. And of course, with all the business pack, there is actually entries to the expo itself. It's a multiple day pass. It's actually a 1 month pass itself, plus 5 single day pass that is actually given to the members. And all of this, with the exclusive priority complimentary bookings within our pavilion space itself. All of this is actually priced at 2,550 dirhams, which is less than 1,000 for the course of 6 months. it doesn't stop there, because I think Singapore Pavilions is all about, collaborations. It's all about sharing ideas and orders itself. And this is where we are also looking at opportunities for businesses to come on board, to actually come and use our space to share their business ideas within the pavilions itself, within the Sky Market. So use the pavilions as a platform for you to actually network your next clientele that you have. Not just that, we are also looking forward for companies to come forward and sponsor the pavilions in various ways itself. We do have a movie screening nights that is happening once a month, and we are happy for any companies to come on board to actually sponsor these programs as a event title sponsor. And we do have different tiers of monetary kind of sponsorships that you can decided to come on board and support the pavilion. With that, this is the opportunities that we are opening up to different businesses in Singapore, as well as Singapore companies in UAE, to come on board and share their ideas and support the pavilions in whichever way that you want. And this ends my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jumpia and Jeslie, for sharing with us on Singapore Pavilion. Participants who are interested to participate in the Expo 2020, kindly reach out to the organizers and we will be in touch. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the panel discussion segment of the webinar. The panelists for this Q&A session are Ms. Hind El Yuha from Ministry of Economy, Dr. Abdullah Al Mari from the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, Mr. Rabi Al Hajari and Ms. Hala Al Almiri from the Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development, and Mr. Salvatore Lavallo from the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. Do type in your questions in the Q&A window, and kindly note that all questions posted in the chat window will not be answered. I would like to now hand over the panel discussion session to the moderator, Dr. Brian Shiger, President of the UAE Singapore Business Council. Dr. Brian, please.
Thank you very much, Adriana, for your introduction. Excellencies, fellow speakers, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to those who are participating from the UAE, and a good afternoon from our friends in Singapore. I think you would agree with me that you've heard 4 highly interesting, very informative presentations. And you would also agree that the intent of the UAE government is certainly very clear, that they are rolling out the red carpet for investors into the country from all over the world. And we indeed in Singapore, who are a major investor in the country, are very interested in taking advantage of the various incentives that have been offered in the liberalization program. So now we have the opportunity to ask some questions to our distinguished speakers, and I would like to exercise the moderator's privilege by kicking start this session with a few questions of my own to be addressed to the presenters. The first question is to Ms. Hind, which I would like to address, is the liberalization of the UAE economy, as I said earlier on, is very welcome by global investors and indeed potential Singapore investors. There is also the Emiratization program in the UAE, vis-a-vis enhancing the employment of Emiratis in the job market. Can you please explain how the Emiratization policy impacts on foreign investors across the various sectors, with particular reference to those which are open to 100% foreign ownership? I think you will understand that when investors invest in a country like the UAE, they want to also plan for the manpower requirements, and therefore I think this is of an important dimension for them to consider in terms of the regulations vis-a-vis Emiratization. Over to you, Ms. Hind.
Thank you for the question, and it's really a very important question. I would like to highlight that the company's law does not differentiate between a foreign investor and an Emirati. So they will have the equal treatment. So there will not be a mandate on the foreign companies to have a percentage quota of Emiratization. However, it will be on a social aspect where the investors, when they will come to the United Arab Emirates, if they would like to have nationals on their companies on board to develop them, to be part of their growth, to exchange knowledge, to assist them to know about the countries. It's their will. There is no any rules or regulations that will force companies to have a certain quota.
Well, thank you very much for clarifying that point. As you can imagine, it's an important point that has to be clarified, because I do agree with you that the UAE government has a very liberal policy towards encouraging investors to bring in whoever they need to bring in for the successful performance of their business and investment plans.
And there is another point. I lost the connection. There is another point, is that in the Ministry of Human Resources, there is a program in which investors can benefit from. If they have a percentage quota of Emirati on board, they will get facilities like a fast track, discounts on visas, etc., which they can explore on the Human Resource Ministry's website. So there is an additional advantages, as I highlighted earlier, for the investors if they recruited Emiratis on their companies. But as a mandatory, it's not mandatory.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you for that clarification as well, Ms. Hind. That's very helpful indeed. The next question I would like to address to Dr. Abdullah. And here again, you have very clearly enunciated this in your presentation. The country's 10-year industrial strategy to increase industry's contribution to the GDP by 125% over the 10-year period to reach 300 billion AED by 2031 is a very impressive objective. And I noticed that you refer to, as one of the enablers of this strategy, the establishment of the Emirates Development Bank. And that's an interesting point, because if I may sort of draw a little anecdote here, when Singapore started its promotion of foreign investments into Singapore, they established a bank, which is very well known now, called the Development Bank of Singapore, which is now morphed into DBS Bank. DBS Bank, as we all know, is one of the biggest banks in Asia, and also has a branch in the UAE, in the IFC. But they started life as actually a development bank of Singapore to provide incentives for financing of investments into the country. And then they morphed into, as I said, a universal bank. So I'm quite interested in that point that you also raised in your presentation. So can you give us some greater clarity and explanation as to how the EDB, the Emirates Development Bank, will work or function, the sort of financial schemes available, and how will they interface with potential investors?
Sure. Thank you very much. Well, with regards to the Emirates Development Bank, as you mentioned, Emirates Development Bank has not actually been recently started or established. It's been established a while back, but their focus was very different and their strategy was different. So recently, their focus has been shifted towards supporting industries, but previously they had a different strategy. So their strategy has been revamped recently, and we're working very closely on getting them to provide the right financing solutions available to support industries. So as of today, they have several financing solutions. Among them is the advanced technology and equipment financing that is focused on enabling industries and providing financing solutions for the deployment of advanced technology within industry. Another solution they have is also the green financing solution, and that is more focused on supporting industries by providing financing solutions to transform their industries into a more sustainable aspects, things like solar power, solar panels for their rooftops, things that would reduce their costs in the long run and do it sustainably. Another one is focused specifically on business expansion. So if you have an industry with a certain capacity, but then would like to expand your production capacity, that's another financing solution that's focused there. Now, they do have also upcoming financing solutions that are planned. So among them is providing equity. So this is all more or less debt financing that they're providing at this stage. But in 2022 or mid-2022, they're also aiming to provide equity financing to the local industry.
And so, Dr. Abdullah, if people want to get information about these packages, they go direct to the Emirates Development Bank, or will they have to go through another channel? Is there direct access?
There is direct access, but we also have our platform, which also directs and supports. So if somebody is establishing a company, but among the needs that they have is financing, they could reach out to us, and we could support on aspects that are related to other than financing, and then direct their financing needs to Emirates Development Bank. And that way we can log their requests and actually follow up on their needs and the actions with Emirates Development Bank. But we have weekly engagements with Emirates Development Bank, and that is to update ourselves and themselves on either requests that come our way, or what are the already support that is being provided by Emirates Development Bank directly. So there is a link on Emirates Development Bank that is focused on industries, and these solutions could be provided directly through Emirates Development Bank. But if there's a need that is beyond financing and others, then I would advise that they reach out to us, and we can direct them to Emirates Development Bank.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah, for that clarification. That's very helpful indeed. The next question I would like to address to Mr. Rabi from the Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development. Now, the UAE is ranked 16th globally in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report as of 2020. It is ranked number 1 globally in getting electricity, number 3 globally in dealing with construction permits, but it is ranked 9th globally in enforcing contracts and 10th globally in registering property. Can you please share with us some of the measures that you may be introducing in Abu Dhabi to improve the performance of the Emirate in these areas of enforcing contracts and registering properties? Mr. Rabi.
Thank you, Doctor, for your question. But I would like to refer that to my colleague Hala Al-Amri. She's the head of competitiveness office in Abu Dhabi, and she's better answering. She will be better answering this question.
Okay, sure, Mr. Rabi.
Thank you, Rabi. Thank you, Rabi. Thank you for the question, Dr. Brian. Actually, the question came on the right time. Early this week, we launched the Abu Dhabi World Bank Improvement Plan. So in Abu Dhabi, as you may know, we have our own World Bank report. We published this report early in May. So we work with the World Bank to publish every 2 years a special report for Abu Dhabi. So as you've mentioned that enforcing contract actually in Abu Dhabi this year is ranked 3rd globally, and registering property 7th globally. So Abu Dhabi has already improved their performance in the indicators you mentioned. So every year or every 2 years after launching of the Doing Business report, we work on collaboration with different government entities to put an improvement plan and work on initiatives that will help us and support us in improving the ranking of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, whether it was fees, requirement, cost, procedures, IT solution, or other, let's say, initiatives. If you allow me, Doctor, I'll go specifically into enforcing contract and registering property. As I mentioned, enforcing contract, we are 3rd globally. So what happens in the past 2 years that helped us in improving the ranking from 15 to 3rd globally? So Abu Dhabi made enforcing contract much easier. We established a small claims court that hears civil, commercial, and labor cases below 500,000. We also simplified the rules. There is self-representation now in our courts for such claims. And also we started publishing the commercial, let's say, judgment on all court levels online. So we made it available for the public. So it is more transparent, let's say, business environment. On the registering property, we improved also. We were 8th in 2019. This year, 2021, we improved to the 7th globally. So Abu Dhabi improved the land administration system. We also allowed publishing the statistics of the real estate transaction. And also the United Arab Emirates, we can say, supported in building a complete unified registration and mapping for all privately held plots in the UAE. So these reforms and these new, let's say, measures that Abu Dhabi took helped us in improving the ranking and overall ranking and ease of doing business in Abu Dhabi. As part of the different other competitiveness report that we look at and have improvement plan on.
Thank you, Ms. Hala. Your words are certainly very encouraging. And if I may also share with you, we have had some Singapore companies who have faced some difficulties in the past in this particular area of enforcing contracts, etc. But I think what you tell me is certainly good news and gives further encouragement that this is not going to be an issue going forward. Thank you very much, Ms. Hala, for your answer. Now I'd like to ask our friend Salvatore a question, because Salvatore is a familiar face in our various seminars, and I welcome him back to our seminar this afternoon. Salvatore, you talked about food security and opportunities, and I think it's very clear that the Emirate of Abu Dhabi is very serious in developing this domain and vis-a-vis food security. And I believe this is also clearly demonstrated by the establishment of the Abu Dhabi Agriculture and Food Safety Authority, or ADA EFSA, which has, I think, taken over 3 previous separate entities. Now, what role does ADA EFSA play in interfacing with foreign companies who may be interested in the food manufacturing and agricultural security sectors? Salvatore.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Brian. I'm happy to be here with you guys as always. So within the broader ecosystem of agriculture, we're all working very closely together on making sure that we have one vision for what we are looking for in terms of the strategy of the agriculture sector, in terms of the goals that we are trying to achieve, and then also making sure that we have complementary instruments to work together. So all of the entities, be it the Office of Food and Water Security, which is on the federal, more strategic level, or the Abu Dhabi Agriculture and Food Safety Authority, which is on a more operational and regulatory level, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, where we provide the financial incentives, some of the government funding partners like ADQ or Mubadala, which provide investment into agricultural companies, or Salal, which works with a lot of the farmers as somewhat of the Farmer Services Center. So all of these different ecosystem partners really work well together to make sure that we are providing that full menu of options, and that we are really well aligned. And any of the companies that we bring into Abu Dhabi in this space, we make sure that they are put in front of all these different entities in kind of a group setting, so that we can make sure that we are giving the full strength of the Abu Dhabi government and the Abu Dhabi ecosystem to each company.
Thank you, Salvatore. We have a couple of questions that I would like to sort of raise that has been put forth by our attendees. There's one I would like to address to our speakers from Abu Dhabi Economics Department. Maybe Hala, you can address this question. This is in relation to a company that has a existing LLC in Abu Dhabi, and what they want to know, and they're operating the IT sector, by the way, and what they want to know is, what is the process? Perhaps you can share with us, what is the process for them to now go into 100% foreign ownership? Is there a defined process that is legislated or made very clear by government rules and regulations, or is it something that they just have to negotiate with their existing partner and come out with a roadmap to achieve what they want to achieve? Hala, would you want to address this question?
I think they should talk to their partners and have an agreement, and hopefully it will not be a problem. But the process is, after they have the agreement with their partners, they would easily submit for a new, let's say, amendment in the actual license to become 100% foreign ship ownership. So I think the agreement first. Otherwise, if there's difficulties, Rabia, what would be the solution?
Yeah, no, there won't be a difficulty, hopefully. As you mentioned, Hala, if they didn't reach to an agreement, they can claim in courts, as we are highly rated in courts and progressing in the contracts. But the process is very simple. It requires just an advertisement in the newspaper for 7 days max, and it's very streamlined and smooth process within our system. They don't need to exist or to physically visit the ED. They just can apply in edcb.gov.ae to have this transition or to have this amendment on the license. It's an easy process, very simple. I think it's also the same process within all Emirates, not only Abu Dhabi, but Abu Dhabi is more streamlined and digitized in that matter. That's it.
Thank you very much, both Mr. Rabah and Ms. Hala, for answering that question. Another question.
If I may, Doctor.
Sure, please. Yeah, please.
They may just contact us on Ma'ak service, ma'ak@ded.abudhabi.ae, and an agent will be assigned to support them during this journey. So
that's excellent. That's very, very helpful. And that again demonstrates your commitment to really give a very hands-on sort of service to people who are, seriously looking at investing in Abu Dhabi and of course the UAE in general. And thank you very much. Another question is on intellectual property, trademarks, and of course, the sanctity of intellectual property, the reliability in terms of respect for intellectual property and technology, trademarks, etc. It's a very important aspect when you have foreign investors coming in with particular specialized technology, for example. So this question I would like to address to Ms. Hind. Could you elaborate a bit about the protection that investors receive in the area of trademark intellectual property in the UAE? Ms. Hind, can I direct that question to you, please? Hello? Ms. Hind?
May I just answer this question, if you don't mind, Doctor?
Sure, of course, yes, please.
Actually, intellectual property is protected by a federal law, which is like conveyed on all Emirates. All DEDs and related entities are working hand in hand with the Ministry of Economy and with the trademarks owners to protect their intellectual property and to protect their products and applications. So in Abu Dhabi specifically, we had several campaigns along with the Ministry of Economy and trademarks owners such as Procter & Gamble, Louis Vuitton, and other highly designated brands to collect or to confiscate all the replicated products. This is an example of how we enforce such law and how we protect in UAE and specifically Abu Dhabi, how we protect intellectual property. So it's really enforced, it's really in motion, and people are also interactive with that process. I hope I answered the question, Doctor.
You have indeed. Thank you so much,
Dr.
Mr. Rabi.
Brian,
Yes.
Hello, Dr. Brian. If you could
Sure.
allow me, this is Mara Rice from the Investment and Talent Attraction Department. We just have a bit of a connection problem with Ms. Hind. Seems to have logged her out of the chat. Doctor, I just want to reaffirm Mr. Rabia's point on the IPR and intellectual property rights. We have a team in the Ministry of Economy dedicated to intellectual property rights, and we have a distinguished team that gives letters of recommendation also for IPR for intellectual property and patent to grant a golden visa to patent holders and patent registers in the UAE. And if you may allow me to list down the contact details of our IPR and the Ministry of Economy, they are more than happy to help with anything to our Singapore investors and Singapore companies that need to do with anything regarding intellectual property rights in the UAE.
Well, thank you very much. That's very reassuring. Thank you also, Mr. Rabi, for your feedback. As you can imagine, we are looking at a lot of potential collaboration between Singapore companies and UAE companies, and in terms of investments into the UAE in the area of technology. And we're talking about all the domains that was very clearly enunciated in terms of different types of technology. And so intellectual property is an important consideration. And I think your answers have certainly given a lot of encouragement and assurances that that is not an issue at all in terms of the UAE. A question for Dr. Abdullah, a very straightforward question really in terms of whether there's any tax or import duties for the importation of equipment and machinery for, let's say, a manufacturing investor.
Thank you, Dr. Brian. Very good point. Maybe I should have highlighted it during my presentation, but I think it's very important to highlight the fact that we're giving import duty free exemption. So in terms of raw material that goes into your production, and in terms of capex cost for manufacturing equipment that goes into your manufacturing plant. So this is an important service that the Ministry of Industry provides for the industrial sector. So you're exempt from raw material that goes into your production and capex cost on importing manufacturing equipment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. A final question to Salvatore. What you're doing in food security and food technology is very impressive, and of course the greatest challenge you probably have in the UAE is your climate. I mean, you would think prima facie it is not going to be an easy challenge to overcome because you have arid climate by and large, and you did make some references of certain companies who have entered into into the area of food technology, food security. You gave some example that was very interesting. The question therefore is, how big is this of a challenge, i.e. the weather conditions for potential investors in this sector?
Yeah, so it's a great question because historically, obviously, agriculture has always been linked to the climate. But what we're seeing now is that that's not really the case anymore, right? We're really turning electricity into calories a lot of the time, and so we have an abundance of sun, which provides that electricity. We have really low utility costs in terms of the electricity that we can provide. So something like indoor vertical farming, which is completely, separate entirely from the outside climate, is in a lot of ways like the future of agriculture, especially as we are seeing the world becoming more desert. And so I think that it can, the shift in agriculture is going to be kind of away from what we traditionally think in terms of like the fertile soil, which isn't necessarily the most efficient way to produce, and instead to be looking at new forms of production, a lot of which don't really interact with the climate in any way, right? If you're looking at cellular-based agriculture, which is all done, in a lab. If you're looking at indoor vertical farming, which is all done indoor. If you're looking as well at the new technologies in terms of seawater-based production, if you're looking at stuff that is, heat-resistant seeding. So you're right that it's a challenge for traditional farming in terms of planting a seed in the soil, like watering it, etc. But the agricultural sector is really moving away from that, and there's a lot of really exciting innovations that really play well into the values and the advantages that we have in Abu Dhabi, such as the sun, such as utility prices, such as just the technological research and development that's necessary for this. So we're really excited about all these new innovations that we can bring to agriculture in Abu Dhabi.
Thank you very much, Salvatore. That's certainly a very interesting response, and it is again testimony to the ingenuity of the UAE in handling challenges that they face in the most innovative and comprehensive manner. Now, I must thank you all panelists for your very informative and very candid responses to the questions that have been asked. There are other questions that have been posed, and of course of time constraints, we'll not be able to direct them to you at this stage, but to the persons who have posted these questions, we will revert to you, and if necessary, we'll get the expertise response from our presenters separately, but we will certainly revert to you on all the questions that you have posed. So it gives me great pleasure now to say a few concluding remarks, and the most important thing I think takeaway is the commitment of the UAE government to promote greater investments in the country. I think there's tremendous competition for investments all over the world, but what is really impressive is that the UAE government is walking the talk and has launched what is, in my view, unprecedented liberalization in the investment situation and environment for the UAE, and so it's a marked improvement over what there was before this, and you already have achieved a very impressive statistic where 30% of your economy is only 30% is dependent on oil and gas, and that itself is a bit of a revelation to many people. When you tell them that, they think, oh, that's very impressive for a country that's noted for oil and gas to be only 30% dependent on oil and gas and to diversify so well. And in that context, I think you are really unique in the whole of the GC. You have diversified remarkably. So all I can say is it certainly augurs well for future diversification from the oil and gas sector with the investment guidelines and regulations that you've now introduced. And so I'm very optimistic that you will see sort of investment flows into the UAE, not just from Singapore, but also from other sort of places in the world. So I want to finally thank our Excellencies Jamal Al-Suwaidi and Kamal Waswani for their kind participation in their speech and the remarks. The presenters who were brilliant in their highly informative presentations. I want to thank our collaborators, our co-organizers were of course the UAE Embassy, and and then the collaborators, i.e. the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and the Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development, and of course ESG represented by our brilliant MC Adriana. And I want to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for your very kind participation in this seminar. And I wish you a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brian. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the UAE Singapore Workshop on Investment webinar, organized by the UAE Embassy in Singapore and the UAE Singapore Business Council. On behalf of the organizers and supporting organizations, I thank you for your kind attention and participation. We welcome your comments and feedback via email to contact us at uaesbc.com. Until our next event, thank you and please stay safe.